In the shadowy expanse of Nova Scotia's remote woodland, a chilling silence hangs heavy. In early May of 2025, that stillness was broken, not by sound, but by the inexplicable absence of two young children. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. 6-year-old Lily and her 4-year-old brother Jack disappeared without warning, without noise, and without a trace. Not a single item was left behind. No backpacks, no stray shoes, not even a smudge on the sliding door through which they may, or may not, have exited. Their scent trail, picked up by trained dogs, led investigators only as far as the edge of the driveway, and then simply vanished. The case was already strange, but what made it deeply unsettling was how still, how eerily quiet it all was. No neighbors saw anything. No surveillance footage caught movement. No one reported hearing a door open or close. It was as though the children had been erased. Their parents, Malia Brooks-Moray and her partner Daniel Robert Martell, quickly came under scrutiny. The more they spoke, the more their silences spoke louder. Why had Malia left the home shortly after the children vanished? Why did Daniel suddenly lose access to baby Meadow, the couple's youngest? And perhaps the most haunting question of all: how do two young children disappear simultaneously without a sound? What you're about to hear isn't just another story of missing persons. This is about Lily and Jack Sullivan, and the chilling web of deception that may have been spun by the people closest to them. From the outside, the Sullivan family appeared unremarkable. They lived in a modest trailer deep in the woods of Landon Station, Nova Scotia, isolated, far from neighbors, and surrounded by dense trees and dirt roads. It was the kind of place where secrets could hide in plain sight. The children, Lily and Jack, were the heart of the home. Lily, always in pink, was bright, chatty, and imaginative. Jack, a quieter soul still in diapers, was curious and full of energy, toddling around in his tiny boots. Their laughter, once a regular presence, now echoes only in memory. The household also included their infant sister, Meadow, their mother Malia, and Malia's partner Daniel Martell, a man who, though not biologically tied to the children, had been a part of their lives for about 3 years. He referred to Meadow as his daughter, though no documentation confirmed this. Daniel worked part-time at a nearby sawmill and otherwise stayed home. The home itself was cluttered, shared with Daniel's mother and a small group of animals, cats and one dog. Malia had left her Mi'kmaq community to live with Daniel, and by all accounts, she wasn't working at the time. Their life was humble and remote. There were no fences around the property, no nearby stores, no foot traffic. Their trailer sat near the forest's edge like a secret kept from the world. May 1st, 2025, the final confirmed sighting of Lily and Jack. According to police, the children were seen with family sometime that afternoon. After that, it's as if the earth swallowed them whole. There were no subsequent sightings, no neighbors, no passing vehicles, no delivery drivers noted anything unusual. Even inside the home, their presence faded. No toys moved, no meals uneaten, no scribbles on paper or bedtime tears. Just nothing. The following morning, the only people who claimed to have seen or heard the children were Malia and Daniel. Daniel said Lily came into his room around sunrise, wearing a pink top. Jack, he claimed, could be heard clanging around in the kitchen. Then silence. Minutes later, Daniel says he got up to check and found the sliding glass door at the back of the house shut tightly. The children were gone. He claimed to have searched the woods immediately. But here's where things grow murky. When did he tell Malia? How long did he search before contacting her or authorities? Because it wasn't until early May 2nd at 1:06 a.m., long after sunset and many hours after the last alleged interaction, that Malia made a 911 call to report them missing. When officers from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police arrived, they found no signs of forced entry. No broken locks, no scattered toys, no blood, no signs of a struggle. It was as if the children had simply dissolved into the forest mist. The search that followed was one of the most intense in recent Canadian memory. Ground teams, drones equipped with thermal imaging, low-flying helicopters, scent tracking dogs, they scoured creeks, trails, even shallow burial sites. Still, there was nothing, not even a sock. And as the search continued, the focus began to shift, from the woods to the people inside the house. The more police, and the public, dug into the lives of Malia and Daniel, the more unsettling the details became. Daniel agreed to interviews. He invited cameras into the very home where the children vanished, despite it being classified as a crime scene. His demeanor was calm, too calm. There was no visible grief, no urgency, just quiet control. In every missing persons case, time is the most valuable currency. Every minute lost could be the difference between recovery and tragedy. But in the case of Lily and Jack Sullivan, the timeline, the one thing that should have offered answers, only deepened the mystery. According to Daniel, the children disappeared sometime around 6:30 in the morning. He said he'd heard Lily's voice and the sound of Jack in the kitchen. Moments later, silence. Then he noticed the door closed and the kids gone. But what Daniel did next raised more questions than comfort. Instead of calling for help, he says he searched the woods alone, for hours. With no flashlight, no neighbors alerted, and no contact with Malia, who was away from the home. No one, not even the closest relatives, was notified that the children were missing until 1:06 a.m. the next day, when Malia finally called 911. That's over 18 hours of delay. And it didn't take long for investigators to notice that something just wasn't right. Malia's voice on the 911 tape is quiet. She tells dispatch that her 2 kids have been gone all day. Her words are calm, almost restrained, as if she's been bracing herself for this moment. And while the dispatcher remains focused on gathering details, Malia seems oddly passive. She never once screams their names. She never demands someone come urgently. She never even uses the word kidnapped. It was as though she had already resigned herself to a darker possibility, and was now playing along with the script. When police finally arrived at the home that night, it was quiet. Daniel stood outside. Malia stayed inside. The trailer was cold. Even the dog stayed quiet, as if it too knew better than to disturb the silence. The scent dogs arrived shortly after and picked up the children's trail, but only up to the driveway. From there, nothing. It was like the kids had walked into a black hole. Word of the children's disappearance traveled fast. In a town as small as Landon Station, where everyone knows everyone else, it doesn't take long for the whispers to start. Volunteers from nearby towns showed up with flashlights and boots, combing through brush, checking creek beds, digging through the frostbitten ground with nothing but bare hands. Some swore they'd seen Lily's pink shirt near the river. Others said they heard a child cry deep in the woods. But every lead was a dead end. What unsettled people more, however, was the behavior of the parents. They didn't join the search. They didn't hand out flyers. They didn't show up at community vigils or search briefings. Malia disappeared from public view altogether. Daniel stayed close to the trailer, giving brief, calculated interviews to a few reporters, always calm, always measured. Too calm. And then came the rumors. Neighbors began to speak up. Former friends of the family. People who had once offered rides, babysat, or stopped by unannounced. Stories began to trickle out. About screaming matches late at night. About bruises on the kids that were explained away as playground injuries. About Jack being seen outside the trailer alone, barefoot, in the cold. One neighbor claimed they once saw Daniel discipline Lily harshly for spilling juice. Another remembered Malia crying on her front steps months earlier, saying she didn't know how much more she could take. There were even murmurs that the children were sometimes kept inside for days, rarely seen outside even in summer. It all painted a picture that no one wanted to admit was possible. That something may have happened inside that home, and that maybe the children didn't walk away at all. In the days following the disappearance, police conducted multiple interviews with Daniel. His story stayed mostly the same, except when it didn't. First, he said the door was found closed. Later, he mentioned it might have been slightly open. He wasn't sure if he heard Lily's voice, or just assumed it was her. He thought Jack was in the kitchen, but couldn't recall if he actually saw him. These weren't major contradictions, but in a case where every second matters, even the smallest shift can unravel trust. And then, something unexpected happened. Daniel agreed to let cameras inside the trailer. In an exclusive segment with a local journalist, viewers were shown the home, untouched since the children vanished. Toys lay frozen in place. Jackets still hung by the door. Lily's pink hoodie was neatly folded on the couch. It was haunting, but it was also deeply strategic. Critics argued it was a calculated move to steer public perception, that Daniel was trying to look cooperative, to appear like a grieving stepfather seeking justice. But many couldn't shake the feeling that something about it all just felt off. While Daniel opened the door to reporters, Malia locked hers. She refused all interviews. She didn't attend the press conference. She was reportedly seen leaving town days after the disappearance and hasn't spoken publicly since. Why? Some speculated she was in shock. Others believed she'd been advised by a lawyer to keep quiet, and a growing number of online forums began to suspect something more sinister, that Malia knew what had happened and was protecting someone. When questioned, police confirmed that both Malia and Daniel were cooperating, but were also being closely monitored. Still, no arrests were made, no charges filed, just silence and suspicion. Weeks passed, then months. The search teams dwindled. The press coverage faded. The community vigils stopped. But the questions never did. Why was there no evidence of the children leaving? Why did their scent vanish at the driveway? Why did Malia wait nearly a full day to call 911? And why, after all this time, has no one been held accountable? Behind closed doors, authorities continued working. Forensic teams returned to the trailer more than once. Soil samples were taken, hard drives copied, phone records subpoenaed. But nothing was made public. Not yet. For the people of Landon Station, the woods that once represented peace and freedom had become a monument to fear. Parents began locking doors that had never needed locks. Children were kept indoors. And behind every casual conversation, one name lingered like smoke: Lily and Jack, two small children who vanished in silence, and may never be heard from again. Time is supposed to bring clarity, answers, peace. But in the months following the disappearance of Lily and Jack Sullivan, time did the opposite. It made things murkier, stranger, more painful, and above all, more suspicious. There were no new sightings, no updates from police, just a cold, hard silence. But not everyone accepted that silence, especially the internet. Within days of the news breaking, the case caught fire online. True crime TikTokers started dissecting the interviews frame by frame. Reddit threads poured over every police statement. YouTube sleuths recreated timelines, mapped the trailer's layout, and even analyzed Daniel's eye movements in his brief on-camera appearance. People noticed strange details. Why did Daniel keep referring to Lily in the past tense? Why was Jack's favorite toy left untouched in the living room, but his shoes were missing? Why did no neighbors hear or see anything unusual that morning? One user posted a now viral theory that the kids may never have left the home at all, that the forest was a red herring, a distraction, a carefully planted narrative. And then there were the rumors. 6 weeks after the disappearance, a woman who lived 2 trailers down came forward anonymously. She told a local reporter she had seen smoke rising from the Sullivan property the morning the kids vanished. She claimed it wasn't the usual trash burn. The smell was different. When asked why she didn't report it sooner, she simply said, "You don't point fingers in this town unless you're ready to lose everything." Police never confirmed the claim, but search crews returned to the Sullivan trailer shortly after. They took a rusted burn barrel from behind the home. They didn't say why. About 2 months into the investigation, a woman named Carla came forward. She said she had dated Daniel briefly before he got with Malia. She described him as charming at first, but manipulative, controlling, prone to disappearing for days without explanation. She also said he hated kids. According to her, Daniel once joked that some people shouldn't be allowed to breed. She dismissed it as cruel humor at the time, but now it haunted her. She told police she had once seen bruises on Lily's arm when she ran into the family at a local diner. When Daniel noticed Carla looking, he wrapped his arm around Lily tightly and smiled. That report was forwarded to detectives. But once again, no public charges. No new statements. Nothing. At this point in the case, something odd happened. People stopped asking where the kids were. They started asking why there was no justice. Why hadn't Daniel been arrested? Why hadn't Malia been charged with neglect? Why weren't the parents of 2 missing children acting like parents at all? A quiet shift took place. This was no longer just a story about 2 missing kids. It had become a story about a system unwilling to speak the truth. By now, Landon Station was split into 2 camps. One still held on to hope that maybe the kids had been taken by someone who wanted them. That maybe, just maybe, Lily and Jack were out there somewhere, alive, waiting to be found. But the other side believed something else entirely, that the children never left that home, that what happened to them was not a kidnapping, but a cover-up, and that someone in that household or close to it knows exactly what happened. 2 years later, a small memorial stands near the woods behind the trailer. Plastic flowers, 2 crosses, a photo of Lily smiling, and one heartbreaking note written in a child's handwriting. "Come home soon. I miss you." But Lily and Jack never came home. Their case is still officially open, still classified as missing under suspicious circumstances. But the deeper you go, the harder it is to believe this is just a missing persons case. No bodies, no suspects, no confessions. Just a quiet, gnawing suspicion that whatever happened, it didn't happen in the forest. It happened behind closed doors. If you found this story disturbing, you're not alone. At Trace of Evil, we believe the truth deserves to be told, even when it's uncomfortable. We cover cases the world forgot, the ones that slip between headlines, and the ones that never made it there in the first place. Be sure to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and hit the bell to follow the trail of darkness we uncover each week. Because somewhere, someone is still hiding the truth, and we won't stop until we find it.